I mean, I couldn't push at all. The car was all over the place, sliding around a lot. So yeah, I had to underdrive it a lot, you know, just to not have a moment. And that of course doesn't work in qualifying.
Listen, you won.
For the first time in years, Max Verstappen couldn't escape Q1 not because of weather, not because of penalties, but because the car simply failed him. A driver known for making the impossible look routine, left powerless on raw pace. Engineers tried to fix the RB21 overnight. What they applied was a radical setup change. What they got was chaos. The rear end was uncontrollable. The floor? Later analysis revealed instability that had been completely missed in simulation. Verstappen now starts P16 while Norris and Leclerc fight at the front. With just 3 races left, he risks losing the World Championship lead he held since round 1. This isn't a minor setback, it could be a season ender. And what did Red Bull find underneath the car after the session? The detail that leaked out of Milton Keynes shocked even insiders. This isn't just a setup mistake. This could be the first technical scandal of 2025. Max Verstappen's qualifying session at the 2025 Brazilian Grand Prix will go down as one of the most puzzling moments of his career. For a driver known for dominating Saturdays with precision, confidence, and pace, his sudden Q1 exit at Interlagos raised more than just eyebrows, it raised alarm bells. No rain. No yellow flags. No traffic. Just one of the greatest talents of his generation fighting a car that refused to cooperate. The problem wasn't just a slow lap, it was how disconnected Verstappen looked from the machine beneath him. His inputs were sharp, but the RB21 didn't respond. The rear end snapped unpredictably. Corner exits were compromised. He couldn't place the car where he wanted it. Verstappen later told media, "The car didn't do anything I expected." For Max to speak that way, something clearly had gone very wrong. And indeed, it had. Red Bull had rolled the dice overnight. After an unstable sprint showing, engineers went bold with the setup, changes to ride height, rake, and front-end stiffness. The goal? To unlock rotation through the technical middle sector. The result? An unbalanced rear and poor traction that left Verstappen sliding instead of pushing. Data from Q1 showed him losing nearly 3/10 alone in Sector 2. For a man who lives on precision, it was an impossible task. Behind the scenes, the panic set in. Trackside engineers knew the RB21 was in trouble, but no one anticipated Q1 elimination. What followed was even more shocking. According to team sources, post-session inspection revealed a mounting irregularity with the underfloor strakes, a component responsible for directing airflow beneath the chassis. It had gone unnoticed before qualifying, potentially affecting aero balance under lateral load. In a car that demands surgical precision, this flaw may have made it undriveable. The timing couldn't be worse. Verstappen's title rivals Leclerc and Norris start up front. Lando especially looked sharp, making the most of his McLaren in clean air. The points gap, once comfortably in Max's favor, now begins to crumble. Just 3 races remain. And if Verstappen leaves Brazil empty-handed while his rivals climb the podium, the title could slip out of reach, not because he lost pace, but because the car betrayed him at the worst possible moment. And yet, Max Verstappen didn't complain. He didn't deflect blame. He faced media, reviewed telemetry, and went back to work. That's the mark of a true champion. The question now isn't whether Verstappen is still the fastest, we know he is. The real question is whether Red Bull can give him a car that keeps up. Because Brazil wasn't just a bad day. It was a warning. And unless they fix it fast, it might be a fatal one for the 2025 world title. Verstappen's Q1 elimination wasn't just the result of poor timing or a misjudged lap. It was the product of a series of bold engineering decisions that Red Bull made under pressure, and every one of them failed. After a difficult sprint session on Friday, Verstappen reported instability at the rear, poor traction out of low-speed corners, and inconsistency on throttle. With limited time to react, Red Bull engineers adjusted several key parameters overnight, hoping to unlock more rotation and grip. Instead, they destabilized the very foundation of the RB21's balance. The most significant change was the alteration of the car's rake, the angle at which the rear sits higher than the front. It's a subtle, complex area of setup that deeply affects airflow to the diffuser and underfloor. In theory, this adjustment would increase downforce and slow corners, helping the car rotate. In practice, it introduced aero inconsistencies, especially at medium speeds where Max usually builds his advantage. Combine that with a stiffer rear suspension setup, and Verstappen found himself driving a car that was snapping under him through key sections of Interlagos. The telemetry confirmed it all. Verstappen was lifting earlier than usual in turns 4 and 8, delaying throttle pickup to avoid rear-end loss. His steering traces showed rapid corrections, clear signs that the rear wasn't planted. But what shocked the Red Bull garage most was what they found during the post-session checks. A flaw in the fitment of the underfloor strakes. Small, essential aerodynamic elements under the car had gone unnoticed. It may have been a minor mounting deviation, but it disrupted airflow and upset the car's center of pressure, especially in young moments. In a high-stakes qualifying run, that's all it takes to throw off the balance entirely. This wasn't just a technical error. It was a failure of preparation under sprint weekend constraints. There was no time to validate the changes with proper long runs or simulations. Verstappen was sent out on instinct, trusting his team, and for once, that trust wasn't rewarded. The result? A lap that left him 16th on the grid, with no real chance to fight back unless chaos unfolds on Sunday. And behind the scenes, the mood inside Red Bull was described as tense but silent. They knew this wasn't just about pace, this was an internal failure. But the damage goes deeper. Red Bull's aura of technical invincibility, the precision that won them titles in 2022, 2023, and 2024, cracked in full view of the F1 world. Verstappen could adapt, he could push, but not even he could overcome the combined effects of a misjudged setup, a flawed aero piece, and a session that spiraled beyond recovery. Now the question isn't what went wrong. It's whether they can recover fast enough to protect his championship lead. Red Bull's RB21 is a masterpiece of aerodynamics and stability when everything is working as designed. But in Brazil, the smallest misalignment caused a chain reaction that even Verstappen couldn't control. The car's floor, specifically the underfloor strakes and the edge wing flow, suffered from what engineers described as a misbalanced pressure zone. The altered rate combined with a slight deviation in floor mounting created turbulent airflow just ahead of the diffuser, killing rear stability right when Max needed it most. The team had hoped to fix the rotation issues from the sprint by softening the rear springs and modifying the anti-roll bar to allow better traction mid-corner. On paper, it worked. But Interlagos isn't just about cornering, it's about transitions. Elevation changes, combined with high-speed compressions, revealed a new issue. The car began to porpoise again, in small but critical waves. The RB21 hadn't shown that kind of instability all season until now. Verstappen did what champions do, he adapted. He modified brake balance lap by lap. He adjusted his lift points. He even experimented with gearshifts to control the torque curve through turns 6 and 11. The data showed it all. He extracted nearly everything the car had to offer, but the physics simply weren't on his side. With lateral grip compromised and braking zones shortened by instability, Max was dancing on a knife's edge. His fastest lap in Q1 was a masterclass in damage limitation. Despite the flaws, he was only 0.2 off Q2, a miracle in itself, given the car's behavior. Verstappen's telemetry showed cleaner lines and fewer corrections than even some midfield cars, proof of his ability to deliver under pressure. But you can only push a flawed car so far, and in a field this tight, 0.2 meant elimination. And that's what stings most for Red Bull. They know the car isn't fundamentally broken. It was a mistake, a misstep in setup and part alignment. But the cost is massive. Starting 16th, on a track that punishes dirty air and offers few clean overtaking windows, Verstappen will need a strategic masterclass just to score solid points. And with rivals up front, he's racing not for the win but for survival in the championship. When Max Verstappen stepped out of the RB21 after Q1, he didn't look angry, he looked resigned. Because this wasn't just a bad lap or a blocked run. It was the moment when the momentum of a championship season turned against him. For a driver who had built his 2025 campaign on consistency, precision, and ruthless execution, Brazil's qualifying disaster created the one thing he couldn't afford: vulnerability. The grid says it all. Norris is on the front row. Leclerc, ever opportunistic, starts right behind. Both drivers are within striking distance in the points. And Verstappen? He's 16th, buried in midfield chaos on a circuit notorious for dirty air and DRS trains. Even if he cuts through the field, the podium may already be out of reach. And with only 3 Grands Prix remaining, every lost point is a door opening for someone else. This weekend could be the inflection point. What looked like a manageable lead before Brazil now threatens to evaporate. Verstappen still controls his fate mathematically, but that grip is slipping. If Red Bull cannot rebuild confidence in the car by Sunday, and if Max cannot deliver a recovery drive for the ages, then the championship battle will shift dramatically in Qatar and Abu Dhabi. The pressure will only increase and the rivals will smell blood. Inside the Red Bull garage, urgency is rising. Engineers have already begun planning a total reset of the floor components, rebalancing the rake, and considering a more conservative strategy. They know they cannot afford to gamble again. This is now about protecting what's left of their advantage, not extending it. It's a defensive posture, not one they're used to, but one they now must master.